Welcome back to Making Money Matter. I'm your host, Kerry Stevenson, and today I've asked Scott Lowe. He is the CEO of Mineral Commodities. Sit up and take some notice, ladies and gentlemen. It's graphite, it's mineral sands, producing, it's in production. I'm pretty excited. Look at those Norway lights behind Scott at the moment. The ASX code is MRC. Lots to chat about today. Scott, good to see you. Love the background.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. It's great to be here. Yeah, that's we've got an operating graphite mine in Norway, and that's a little bit of shows you what the landscape's like.
We're going to get onto that because the key there is an operating in production mine in Norway, which is a great jurisdiction. But since this is the first time our audience has listened to you, brief overview of who are Mineral Commodities.
Sure. Look, and thanks, Kerry. So we're listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. We've got a market cap of less than 30 million Australian dollars. The share price currently around 3.2 cents. And an overview of our assets. So we've got an operating mineral sands mine in South Africa, an operating graphite mine in Norway, and we've got some exciting graphite development projects in Australia, graphite concentrate and graphite anode. That are at definitive feasibility and pre-feasibility study level.
I think you must have been flying under the radar a little bit, but Scott, I've known you in the past. You joined this company on the 1st of September.
I did.
I think we all want to know, it's had a bit of a rough ride recently, the share price. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, it's a tough market out there, and we all know that a number of companies are under a bit of pressure at the moment. But what I want to know is, you joined on the 1st of September, Scott. What attracted you've got over 35 years experience in the industry, and you've been in some interesting places as well. You've worked for big companies, small companies. Why Mineral Commodities? You've just 9 weeks in the hot seat.
Yeah, look, that's a very good question. There's really two main reasons. And I didn't have a crystal ball about what was going to happen with the sudden interest in graphite, but I'm very enthusiastic about the future for battery metals. So the fact that this company has a low market cap and has graphite battery metals projects that include value add, that attracted me, definitely. And over the last few weeks, we've seen this great interest in graphite. So battery metals was what attracted me. And secondly, operating mine in South Africa. I worked for BHP in South Africa in coal mines many years ago, and more recently worked in Africa in Liberia, turning around and achieving great production and low costs in an iron ore mine in Liberia. So my experience in Africa meant that I thought there was a very good fit between what this company needs and what I can bring to the table to turn that mineral sands mine in South Africa around and make it profitable once again.
Why has the mineral sands project in Africa been, because people sometimes look at South Africa and think, oh, that's a difficult area to work. What's your turnaround strategy? Because it's in production but not profitable. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, historically, this company, when it had a share price that was more than 10 times what it currently is, it was very profitable in the mineral sands business and was actually giving dividends to shareholders. Now, what's changed since in the recent past is that because there's beach mining, there was historically beach mining only. Now, it's from March this year, it's beach mining and inland mining. So two different ore types, both mineral sands, but different ore types. And there have been some challenges in processing, in the processing plant, in dealing with those two different ore types. But the good news is I'm very confident that can be turned around. And we're going to actually introduce some additional concentrating process capacity. And we're also going to add some tertiary processing to increase the grade of production. And one of the challenges here has been dealing with the slimes from very fine material in the inland sand. The beach sand processing is very straightforward, a bit more challenging on the inland, but very fixable. So we've got a number of changes that we're going to make to the process plant, like introducing double efficiency cyclones, for example.
What does that, hang on a second. What does that mean?
What it means is, for those who are not processing people, is that there are changes that we can make, and we are making in the process plant, that will mean that dealing with the fines, which has been problematic for the last few months, that's going to be fixed.
And you also said tertiary processing. Forgive me, what does that mean?
We currently do primary and secondary, and produce a certain grade. There are three products there: ilmenite, garnet, and zircon and rutile. And by introducing tertiary processing, we'll be able to increase the grade, and that means charging higher prices for our products.
Okay.
So problem number one, we need to fix the dealing with the slimes and the ultrafine material. That's just an engineering solution by changing the process plant. And secondly, adding tertiary processing, which will mean that higher value products.
Have you got enough going through the plant? Where's all the ore coming from? Where the mineral sands are coming from? Because you said beach and inland, and that was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, look, the mining is very simple. The mining is very incredibly simple, so that's not a challenge there. We've got some work to do to our aging fleet there, our mobile equipment fleet, but that's simply a case of doing some more maintenance on our fleet. But the mining's very straightforward. The challenge has been in the processing, but the good news is that there are very straightforward fixes there for, as I mentioned, dealing with the ultrafine material. That's just an engineering solution, and then the value add by adding tertiary processing. Mining's very simple. It's been the processing that's the challenge. And all of that means that I'm very confident we can turn this around, make it profitable once again.
What would you say to people out there that say, oh, South Africa, I'm a bit nervous about there? Because you're a guy that's worked in Africa, you know different. He mentioned Liberia, ladies and gentlemen. This must be a walk in the park in South Africa.
It really is. I mean, when people ask me about working in Africa, what's it like? I always say there's 54 answers to that question, or is it 55? Many different countries, and some easier to work in than others. I've lived and worked in South Africa. Yes, of course, there are challenges there, but it's certainly at the better end of the spectrum on working in Africa. And I've been to visit in the 9 weeks since I joined. I've been twice to South Africa, and I'm very confident that that's manageable and that all of the challenges there can be easily overcome.
I know that, and I guess it's important for me to mention this, that right now you are doing a capital raise. I think you're looking to raise 15 million. Is some of that going to be focused on that South African mineral sands project? In other words, how much do you have to put into that to get it back up into that positive cash flow territory?
Yeah, look, thanks. So about 2/3 of what we raise will go into the mineral sands business. So we'll be increasing our availability of our mobile equipment, and we'll be making some changes in the process plant that I mentioned earlier, and adding a third primary concentrator. It's called a PBC, a primary beach concentrator, where we're buying a third one, so increasing from 2 to 3. So that's where about 2/3 of the money that we raise will go. The balance will go into the graphite business that we haven't started to talk about yet.
Yeah,
but that's a very exciting part of our business.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just finish off on South Africa in getting it back to profitability. What's your time frame, do you think? And I don't want to hold you to it, because these things, can come back and bite you. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, look, certainly in the first half of next year. That's why I visited South Africa twice in the first 9 weeks, to make sure I was fully up to speed with the challenges there and our projects going forward. And certainly in the first half of next year, we should be well on our way to returning to historic levels of profitability.
Well, that's exciting. And you just mentioned graphite, which is a really interesting time to be in graphite. I think your project, it is an operating mine, isn't it, up in Norway? I don't think people even know about it. So let's talk graphite market, but let's firstly talk about what it is that Mineral Commodities have got up there in Norway. Great part of the world.
Yeah, look, great. And that's part of it. We've got an operating mine in Norway. We've also got a development project in Western Australia.
Yes.
So our graphite business has a number of elements. An existing operating mine in Norway, which has one of the highest grades in the world, 25%. And we also have a development project called Munglenup in Western Australia.
Glad you pronounced that.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, Munglenup in WA.
Munglenup. Yep.
Yes, and there's a definitive feasibility study that's been completed on Munglenup to build a concentrate mine. But then what's really important is that together we put Norway and Western Australia together. We've also done a pre-feasibility study on an anode project, and that's really where anybody who saw the recent benchmark webinar on graphite will know that that's where the big money comes from. The big margins and returns come from not just from graphite concentrate, but from anode. And we have an anode project as well. So there's a number of elements to our graphite business.
Talk to me like a 5-year-old.
Okay.
What do you mean by an anode project? Because some of us will go scratch our heads, go, well, what's the value?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the anode is value add. We take the concentrate, then put it through an anode plant, and it's a fundamental ingredient to making batteries. So I don't pretend to be an expert on battery manufacture. I'm a miner at heart. But this project, which has had a pre-feasibility study done on it, has exceptional economics. Now, one of the things I'm going to be doing is updating that pre-feasibility study, which was done in 2020, and then converting it to a definitive feasibility study on the anode project. But in the pre-feas, it was 67% post-tax internal rate of return. Those are spectacular numbers. Now, a lot's happened in 3 years. Costs have gone up, of course, so we'll be updating that. But the value of the product is also on the rise. So I'm very excited about updating those studies, going from pre-feas to definitive feasibility study on this anode project.
You spoke about the graphite market. People, right now, as I talk to you in November of 23, all talk has been on that sort of lithium and uranium, but graphite seems to suddenly have come back. Your timing could be quite good here. Well, the market for graphite, Scott, it's an area that you know quite well. Talk to us about that and what you see. Why has it suddenly come into everyone's orbit?
Well, things changed overnight when China announced a policy decision to restrict or prohibit the export of graphite from China. And whether or not the Chinese changed that policy over time, I think the benefit to graphite companies like us will be long lasting, because the world has now woken up that you need more than lithium to make batteries. You also need graphite, and up to 50% of a battery by volume can be graphite, depending upon the type of battery. So I think that now the market has woken up, and I can really see, I don't think this is a temporary level of interest in graphite. I think this is going to be sustained.
You've also, I think it is interesting. You've done, I think you've got a collaboration, haven't you, with Mitsubishi? Is that right? Mitsubishi.
Yeah, we do.
Explain that and the value that might add for shareholders.
Yeah, look, thank you. We've got a memorandum of understanding with Mitsubishi, and I haven't had a chance to go and meet with them yet, but I will soon. And it's really their technology that they're going to contribute to. That we're doing a pilot plant. We're constructing a pilot plant, and in the longer term, Mitsubishi technology has the potential to enhance our anode so that it becomes even greater yield, so better economics with Mitsubishi technology, potentially. This is all part of the study. And at the moment, in the pre-feas, approximately 50% of the concentrate becomes anode, the high-value anode project. But that could potentially double if the Mitsubishi technology is applied, and that's what we're going to study. And also, there's the natural competitor for natural graphite is synthetic graphite, and the Mitsubishi technology can also make the natural graphite more competitive with synthetic. So look, those are there are potential improvements that will be studied when we go from pre-feas to definitive feasibility. But having Mitsubishi as a partner with our memorandum of understanding with them is really something that we think sets us apart from other graphite companies.
If I can just go north to Norway, is that it's producing? What do you need to do to again add some more value up in Norway? Because graphite's we've covered the heavy mineral sands in South Africa. We know what's happening there, but graphite, you've got two projects, one in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Is Norway an easy? Is it going to get bigger? How do you add value there?
Yeah, look, it's going to get bigger. It's small scale at the moment, very high grade, as I mentioned earlier, one of the highest grade operating mines in the world at 25% graphite. I've been to visit Norway, and it's an underground mine. I've been to visit Norway. It's a very simple operation. It's small scale at the moment, producing 10,000 tonnes of product per year, but I've got plans to increase that to 14,000, so 40% increase in output is something that we're working on right now, and it's a part of the how would we apply the funds from the capital raise would be increasing the production in Norway. But
sorry to interrupt you, Scott. How do you increase the production from 10 to 14? Is that purely by increasing the throughput, or how do you do that?
Yeah, look, there's limited hours of operation there at the moment, so we'll look at some weekend work to do that, and then very small amount of investment in some basic infrastructure. It's a big increase, 40%, but off a very low base at 10,000 tonnes. So going to 14,000 tonnes won't be difficult.
What's your mine life up there? Is that going to be operating for a while?
Yeah, it's currently a 15-year mine life, but we'll do some more drilling, particularly as we increase production to increase our resources and reserves there. But it's a 15-year mine life at the moment.
In your opinion, is Norway a fairly simple operation? You'll just increase the amount coming out, but it's operating, it's profitable?
Yeah, look, that's the most of our earnings come from the mineral sands. So particularly when we increase the production, it'll make money, not a huge amount of money. The vast majority of our earnings will still come from the mineral sands, but really the upside from our graphite business comes from combining the concentrate in Norway with the concentrate and in Western Australia, and together making an anode. Now, in the pre-feasibility study, we're working on having the anode plant in Norway with very low power costs. I mean, Norway's a fantastic jurisdiction, very business friendly, and has very low power costs. And you need low power costs to get the sort of great returns that have been calculated from the pre-feasibility study on the anode project.
So is the pilot plant going to be in Australia or Norway?
Yeah, look, it's being built in Australia.
Right.
That's where the power plant's being built. And also, I should add, the Australian government is 50% funding the pilot plant in Australia. There's an initiative called the CMAI, the Critical Minerals Accelerator Initiative, which is an Australian government initiative, and they're co-funding the work on our studies.
Time frame for that? Where do you think that's going to go? What's the time frame around that?
We're looking at in Munglenup in WA getting a mining license. There's currently an application underway for that. So in the early part of 2024, we're expecting to be able to secure a mining license, and then we'll update our studies, update the Munglenup definitive feasibility study, which is on a concentrate mine, and then we'll bring that up to 2024 currency. And then separately on the anode project, we will update that pre-feasibility study and make it a definitive feasibility study on anode, and again, update all the numbers and assumptions in that.
Scott, for our beautiful audience out there, myself included, what do you think is the most exciting? We've spoken Norway, we've spoken Australia, we've spoken South Africa. The focus sounds to me like South Africa's the cash cow.
Yep.
In the short term, but the anode project longer term is going to deliver even more value for shareholders. Would I be getting that right in the way I pronounce that?
Yeah, look, I think that's a fair assessment. And you can take when we turn mineral sands around and make it profitable, you simply apply a PE ratio to come up with a valuation there, and then if you take a look at the pre-feasibility study economics, which you can see in our investor presentation, and I will update those numbers. They're currently 3 years old, but I can see potential for those numbers to be even stronger, depending upon what the value of the anode becomes in 2024 terms. But when you look at even a portion of the net present value there's a real company maker in the anode.
Right. It's an interesting company, interesting projects. Top 2 shareholders have got 46%, so it's a little illiquid at the moment. You've been flying under the radar. I'm going to throw the final, because we're running out of time, the final thing to you, Scott, and that is, I want to know 3 reasons why you think people should be sitting up and taking notice of ASX code MRC right now?
Sure. Well, the first is that there are a lot of junior companies
Yep.
in the $30 million kind of market cap range or less, but very few that have producing assets. And in fact, off the top of my head, I can't think of any that have not one but two producing assets. So that's the first one. Secondly, Mineral Commodities Limited has really been known for mineral sands in the past, and our graphite assets have been overlooked. And
Right.
so for those investors who are looking to invest in a graphite company, and some might think, well, we've missed the opportunity to invest because the graphite companies have already increased their share price. There's a buying opportunity with us. So our graphite assets have been overlooked, and they're very exciting. And thirdly, if you ask, well, what's so exciting about our graphite assets? Just recapping on our earlier conversation. Firstly is location. Many companies with graphite assets have them in rather challenging jurisdictions. We're in Norway and Australia.
Yep.
Secondly, in our industry, people often say grade is king. And if you take a look at our grade in Norway, around that 25% mark, that's spectacular. And our grade in Mungla up in Western Australia is also very healthy. And thirdly, as I also mentioned earlier, those who are analysing the graphite market are really pointing to anode as the part of the process that makes the most money. You can make money in concentrate, but you make even more money in the anode. And we have not just a graphite concentrate project at Mungla up in Australia, as well as the existing concentrate production in Norway, but we also have a really exciting anode project that I believe could be a company maker.
Wow, that's big. And you know what I like about that is that I guess you're collaborating with Mitsubishi, but I think it's that value add onshore in Australia instead of just shipping concentrate off, which is what we've done historically. What you're saying is we're going to build an anode project here in Australia, and that could be a company changer for Mineral Commodities.
Not quite. The anode project will be built in Norway with the low power costs. But yes, an anode project that combines both our Norway and our Australian assets.
Got it. Okay. And right now you're doing a capital raising. When does that close? And if people are interested?
Yeah, on the 20th of November. So look, we've already got great support from existing shareholders, and I'll be talking and doing some roadshow meetings with other potential new investors over the coming week or so.
All right, so it closes on the 20th. It's a very interesting time for Mineral Commodities. Scott, it's been great to see you. Come back and have a chat with me once the money's in and you're starting to build those plants and turning South Africa from where it is now into a profitability. And as you said before, this is a company that paid dividends in the past, and my audience loves a good dividend.
I'm sure they do. Look, thank you so much for making time, and I promise to come back.
All right, good on you. Thanks for joining me on Making Money Matter.